Hello, I'm Phil Svitek, 360 Creative Coach, and in this episode, I wanted to tackle the notion of complaining. And sure, it's a topic I've discussed in past episodes, and so you're welcome to check those out. But I felt it was important to talk about because, at least in my life, I'm very attuned to people's complaints and things like that, and it just seems like there's more and more complaints. And listen, it's not to say that at certain points they're not justified. And especially like it being 2021, we're in the middle of a pandemic, the economy for a lot of people is shit and so forth. So I get it. There's definitely a lot of things one can complain about. But the fact of the matter remains that complaining will ultimately solve nothing. And it takes away one's agency. It really does. And listen, it's not to say that if you don't complain, then all of a sudden things will be magically solved. And if you take an action, then that will solve it magically. But at least it gives you a chance to. You know, complaining is an action. And in action, what's that going to do for you? You're just magically hoping someone else will do the thing and solve it for you. And I just feel like more and more, in my circle of people, right? So sorry, friends, but I'm talking about kind of you guys, and so please take it with an open heart. I just see and hear a lot of complaints, and some of it is also just stuff that I know is in the middle of like all of this, right? I mentioned the pandemic and the economy. Some of the complaints that I'm seeing are just so like, not even, who cares, right? And the irony of ironies is that I know like these people that are complaining about these seemingly frivolous things, I know they have the power to change it and affect it and do something about it. But, truth be told, we all have to be honest with ourselves. It's a lot easier to just complain and do nothing, right? To sit behind a computer or behind your phone and just tweet or whatever the case may be about X, Y, and Z. But it's like, what are you doing about it? Right? As I said, listen, I could throw a rock right now and hit like a major, major injustice happening, right? But the only way it gets better is if we stop complaining and do something about it. Now, the good news is, it doesn't really matter what cause you choose to get behind, in theory, because there's so many causes and they all need help, right? So I think sometimes people get stuck on this idea of an action simply because, well, like, it's just so overwhelming and who do I help and whatever. It's like, just pick somebody. That'll help, right? Just pick a thing and go to it. I was talking with my friend and he was complaining how like he really wants to help people, but he wants to do it on his own terms. I'm like, what does that even fucking mean? What does that mean? I said, listen, you keep like you don't even know what the right way for you to help is because you haven't even tried all the wrong ways. So how about you try all the wrong ways first and then figure out what the fuck you actually want to do? And the people that might actually need your help, like, listen, I said to him, like, listen, maybe because he wants to help young people. So I said, maybe, how about this? You find an organization that helps youth right now that are in trouble, because there's a lot of youth, and you whatever it is, you go out there and you be part of the charity, and by just being, because ultimately what he wants interaction with people and to have a dialogue and conversation. But I'm like, listen, no one's going to be calling you, 1-800 help me for your advice. So you got to get to them. And so you've got to figure out how to mold the medium to you. And so, go be helpful, go sign up for charities that are already doing great work. And then through that, that's how you get that interaction. But it's the ego talking. We all, we just want the simple solutions for everything. And it's just easier to sit back and not do jack shit. It's like, enough with that. It's almost like, I don't mean to be crass about it, but sometimes like the easiest solution to all of our problems is just to take the action, I think, we overthink ourselves to death, and it's like, just do the thing. If in your heart of hearts, you want to make a difference and you want to make a positive impact, there's not really, yes, there's a wrong way to do it, but don't let that be fearful. Listen, you're going to make a misstep sometimes. It might not go right, whatever the case may be, but that shouldn't be an excuse for inaction. We got to help, right? And by the way, or don't, but then stop complaining about it. I'll give you kind of like an incredible, like, just insane complaint, right? Like the most like privileged complaint you could have in the middle of a pandemic. But let's just go with it, because I think this illustrates it so vividly. I was talking with my friend James Lott Jr., and he's someone like me who does a lot. And one of the things that he's doing now is audio dramas. It's really cool, right? He's doing like soap operas as podcasts. Incredible stuff, right? Amazing. I love it. And people come up to him, I'm like, James, how did you do this? Like, this is incredible. And again, it's like all things. I mean, I talk about this a lot, but you break it down into bite-sized solutions, right? Rather than be overwhelmed by the problem. And they're like, you're able to do this. Like, I can't find any actors, they'll say to him as a complaint. He was telling me about this, and in my mind, I made him laugh because I said, can't find an actor. We live in LA. Listen, you could technically just, I know we're in the middle of the pandemic, so, keep a distance, but, you could walk down the street and find an actor. Of course, I'm being facetious. But the point of the story is that they're complaining even about the wrong thing. It's not that they can't find actors. They can't find actors to be on board with their thing. That's the real crux of it. And it's like, we go, well, why? Because they don't want to consider it. And part of it is, yes, you have to put in the work. If you check out kind of my latest vlog about this, I'll link down to it in the section in the description box. But I talk about for me creatively, I'm on this moving train, and people are either on board or they're not. And I had some grievances that I aired, but I realized, listen, I got it. Like, it's almost, I know it's a little bit hypocritical, but I got it out of my system. I wanted to be honest about it. But I'm going to continue moving forward with or without certain things. People either get on board and they're not, and in that sense, I think that's, again, it's just much easier for people to complain about why their projects don't get off the ground, or, no one's seeing my talent, or, I don't have enough followers. Like, again, all these things are much easier to complain about, but it takes away your agency, right? We as creatives, I mean, I'm talking, I started off talking about the big stuff, but, it's just, in terms of the myopic version of this, I just know so many creatives that constantly complain of like, I'm not getting noticed, I'm not getting followers, this isn't really hitting for me. And it's like, okay, but what are you going to do about it? And sometimes you can't do anything about the thing that you want to do about. But instead, you got to focus on the thing that you can control. So how are you going to do that? And instead of allowing, your agency to be dispersed like the wind, or, dust in the wind or whatever. Sorry, I'm not, for some reason, an analogy is not coming to me. But the point being, actually take control, right? Instead of just wishful thinking. Wishful thinking is wishful thinking, but give it some action, and you might have something going. That's why James Lott Jr. is able to do his soap opera dramas as podcasts, is because, his train's moving, and he's going to do it. And people are, forgive the term, especially in the pandemic, but they're infected by his spirit. Now, that doesn't mean, listen, a lot of people are like, oh, what you're doing is amazing. I'll give them an opportunity, but if they don't live up to it, the train keeps on moving. And then they'll complain of like, well, I really wanted to be part of this. And it's like, no, you didn't. No, you didn't. And I'm not trying to say, like I said, there's a lot of things going on, and there's a lot of things that one can complain about. But just because one can doesn't mean one should, and it certainly doesn't mean that the complaint itself will resolve the issue at hand. I think you and I are creative, and I think we need to start, rather than channel our creative energy towards like creative complaints, let's channel them towards creative solutions. I know someone's so upset about Warner Brothers in terms of opening day and date in terms of movie theaters with their movies and putting them on HBO Max. If you're unfamiliar, basically in 2021, as it stands right now, Warner Brothers movies, let's say like The Matrix 4 or Dune, as of now, those will open in theaters, but the same day they open in theaters, they will be available to watch on HBO Max. And people in the film business are losing their minds over this. It's the death of cinema, blah, blah, blah. And what's crazy to me is I know certain people, I know filmmakers, and it's like, okay, if this really matters to you, then why don't you ban all, start something and get all the filmmakers on board, because if filmmakers don't want to make movies, for the studios in this way, then guess what? That can send a message, number one. Number two, I know somebody that, is really tied in and knows the theater chains and so forth. So it's like, well, why don't you start a thing and then get all the theaters to like come up with something and be able to put up a stance of some kind, right? I'm not saying it'll work, but do try something. Anything's better than nothing. And then thirdly, there's the whole audience aspect of it. At the end of the day, this is all meant as a play, let's face it, for money in that sense. But if audiences prefer movies instead of, seeing them on HBO Max, then, the audiences do get to dictate. So it's like, if people really care about this, then really, make it be aware in terms of audiences and what they should do and so forth, and educate them. But don't just complain. Organizing is different than complaining. And I want to make that clear. And so I know I've picked kind of frivolous things, but in that, it's just easier to kind of illustrate, and perhaps we can kind of have a laugh about it. But the principles do apply to larger things as well. They really do. So that's kind of my thoughts on complaining. Let's stop complaining and start creating creative solutions, because we're creative. That's what we should be doing. That's my message to you, and I hope you take it to heart. Thank you. If you think this episode would benefit somebody in your life, by all means, please share it with them. I certainly would appreciate it. Appreciate you, and hope to see you next time.